Namaskar and welcome to Filing Time, the first episode under the TAXpert series. I am Subhash Jangala, Joint Director in the Directorate General of Administration and Taxpayer Services. And we are streaming from Samvad here at Mayur Bhavan in New Delhi. It is Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and the Central Board of Direct Taxes wishes all of you a very happy 75 years of independence. In the spirit of Jan Andolan, the Income Tax Department has been reaching out actively to all its stakeholders across the country to make tax compliance simple and quick. 31st December is approaching fast. Along with being the last day of 2021, it is also the due date for individuals and other entities not liable for a tax audit to file their returns of income. In the case of companies and auditable cases, the due date is 15th of February 2022. To handhold you through the process, we have with us here today Sri Ramesh Krishnamurthy, Additional Director General in the Directorate of Systems of CBDT. Sri Ramesh Krishnamurthy is an IRS officer of the 1992 batch, a recipient of the Prime Minister's Excellence Award in 2013. He has served in various positions both within and outside the department, including in the Department of Economic Affairs. Having served close to 12 years in the Systems Directorate in his long career, he is perhaps one of those few officers who understands what goes on inside the complex algorithms and workflows of e-filing and return processing. Thank you for joining us today, sir. Filing Time is a 3-part episode to be aired as a series of videos addressing crucial issues that taxpayers face while going through the return filing process. As we move from one session to another, we shall try to answer all kinds of questions that taxpayers might have faced or are facing during filing their returns and receiving their refunds. And today is about getting ready, where we shall look at everything you need to equip yourself with in order to have a smooth and quick filing experience. So, sir, the date of filing is fast approaching. So, what do you think are the things that a taxpayer has to be ready with to have a smooth filing experience?
First of all, thank you very much, Subhash, for having me here. Taxpayers, as you are aware, this is a very crucial time for the department where they are filing their returns. I would like to inform all the taxpayers through this recording that the new e-filing portal, the address is www.incometax.gov.in. So this is the website that they need to go to. The first prerequisite obviously is if they have not yet registered, then they have to register themselves. The user ID is their PAN number, and then they can select their password. The crucial thing to note is that if they were already registered in the old portal, the old password will continue to work. Second thing that they should note is that they should have their mobile number and email ID where they can receive the OTP, because that is a mandatory requirement for registration and for all communication that they'll receive from the department. So it has to be accurate, and it should be something which is there in their possession. The other thing that they should know is that they can update their profile, their address, their communication address. They can select somebody as a secondary mobile or a secondary email ID also can be given if they want, of a tax professional they are having, or that of a relative whose help they take. Third thing is the bank account number. They should make sure that the bank account number that they select should be having the PAN number seeded in their bank account, so that the refund can be credited to that bank account. So it is a mandatory requirement to have a bank account with PAN, that for refund direct credit. And the last thing is that they should have linked their Adhar with PAN. This is a requirement that is there to be quoted on the income tax return. The Adhar number has to be quoted. And the other thing that they note is that if the Adhar number has a mobile number linked, then they can also receive an Adhar OTP. And if you have the Adhar OTP, you can also verify, do an e-verification of the return very easily. So these are some of the prerequisites I would think that taxpayers should know about.
Okay. Sir, like you had advised that the taxpayers are expected to link their PAN with Aadhaar. Can you just give a little bit of direction on how that's done and what's the utility of that?
So, if the taxpayer has already not linked their Aadhaar with PAN, it's a fairly simple process. You can go online. On the home page, on the left side, there is a quick link. You have to give the if it is not, you're not logged in, you have to give the PAN number, you have to give the Aadhaar number. And what is crucial to note is that the name as per Aadhaar and name as per PAN number should match. The date of birth should be the same in the PAN database as well as the UIDI database, and the gender should be the same. If these three conditions are met, then the PAN will be linked to the Aadhaar. As I already said, if the Aadhaar is linked, if the taxpayer has got a Aadhaar linked mobile number, then he can also receive OTP on the Aadhaar for e-verification.
Right, sir. So there's one question that we often receive that for the purposes of validation, can a taxpayer give a number that is registered outside India, a foreign number?
Yeah, in a very few cases, particularly in the case of non-resident Indians and non-resident foreign citizens, they are living outside the country, but they may have to file the return of income.
Right.
In such cases, the foreign mobile number is also available on the profile to be entered, and we have the capability to send an SMS to the foreign mobile number. However, they cannot use this because Aadhaar, even if they have an Aadhaar, because the Aadhaar is not linked to a foreign mobile number, they will not be able to receive any OTP on their Aadhaar registered mobile. But yes, the foreign mobile can be registered on the site.
Okay. So we get a lot of questions about instant PAN. So how do you think, how is it useful, or how does it really work?
So, Subhash, earlier there was to be the facility for paper-based application for application of PAN. So you have to file a paper application. Now we have introduced an online facility on the e-filing portal. Once you're on the home page, on the left side, there is a facility to generate an instant PAN. The only prerequisite for that is that the taxpayer must have a valid Aadhaar and he must have a mobile number registered on UIDI. On clicking this online facility, he has to give his name. The name should match with that of the PAN database. It will go into the PAN database, and then he can apply for PAN number, and then we use the OTP that is coming on the mobile of the taxpayer is used to authenticate, and we pull the data from UIDI about the taxpayer's name, his date of birth, his gender, and all the other particulars, and on that basis we allot a PAN to him. So till date we have already allotted about 31 lakh instant PAN to taxpayers, and this is a facility which is available free of cost.
Okay. Yes. Sir, and then there's another important thing that it's an yearly process, filing of returns. So forgetting someone's password is something that happens very common. So what is the procedure to be followed to retrieve the password in such a case?
Because typically income tax filing is an annual process, not many taxpayers frequently visit the income tax website. So, and also in many cases they may have relied on a friend or a relative for filing, and they may have misplaced their password. So this is where the importance of having a proper email ID and a mobile number is important, because if those two are something that is frequently used by the taxpayer, he can simply reset his password by using OTP on his mobile number and on his email ID. If he enters both the OTPs, he can reset the password. In case he has not used the mobile number, or it is that of a professional or somebody else, and he's not using that mobile number, but if he has linked his PAN and Aadhaar, and the Aadhaar has a mobile number, he can use Aadhaar OTP to also reset his password. The other methods that are available are direct login through net banking. So we have integrations with net banking for 18 banks. You can log into your bank account, and then from bank account, typically all the taxpayers will have tax center or something on the internet banking site. There will be a link called either e-file return or go to e-filing portal or something like that. If you click on that, it will directly take you to the e-filing portal post login. So you are already logged in, and this is a kind of a handshake between the bank and the department. So once he is already logged in, he can go and reset his password. So this is another way in which resetting of password is permitted. Then there are for non-individuals like companies and all that, if they have already have their registered digital signature certificate, then they can use that registered DSC to also reset their password.
Right.
If all these options are failing, then they have to either file a grievance on the portal, saying giving their attached document whatever is required, or they can send us an email on efilingwebmanager@incometax.gov.in, giving all their original details like your PAN card copy and things like that, using which we will reset the password. But that is the last option. There are a lot of self-service options that people are able to use.
Right. Sir, so the department has brought in a lot of technology in the procedure of e-filing and all of that. So in case of super seniors who may not be comfortable with technology, is there any way in which they can probably file their returns in a more comfortable way?
Yeah, so Subhash, what I would like to mention here that super senior citizens who are 80 years and above, the government has provided them the flexibility if they have to report income in ITR 1 or ITR 4, which is your basic return, that can be filed using paper. That is what can be filed with the jurisdictional assessing officer in a paper format. But over the years, what we have seen is that most of the super senior citizens also prefer to file electronically, because the entire processing and all that becomes very fast. We do not have too many paper returns that we receive in the department anymore.
Okay, great. So now coming to the real the process of initiating our return filing, what are the important documents do you think that all the taxpayers should keep handy when they file, before they start filing their returns?
Yeah, so Subhash, this is a very important question. So what income tax return filing, I would say the most of the time is taken only in the preparation. The filing process is fairly smooth and straightforward. We have received close to 3.25 crore returns, and every day we are receiving close to 4.5 to 5 lakh returns as on date. But what people, taxpayers forget is that there is some amount of preparation that is required.
Right.
So typically for salaried people, they should have their Form 16 that has been issued by employer. If they had multiple employers, if they had changed jobs, then they would have received more than one Form 16. So they should take the Form 16 from multiple employers. Then they would have received interest from banks. So they will get something called an interest certificate. Typically all banks have on their in net banking, they provide a downloadable interest certificate which will give you how much of interest you've got from savings, how much from FD and all that, all those details are available. Then obviously if you have house property, your rental receipts, how much house property you have paid, tax you have paid. If you have other sources of income other than these, then you will have to have that. But broadly, if you have these particulars and also details of investments that you have made. So for example, for 80C, claiming your deduction under 80C life insurance premium or your contribution to PF and all that, those details also you should have. Once you have got all these details available, then I would suggest that you should cross-check with what is called the 26AS statement, which says that it gives a full picture of how much tax has been deducted at source, how much advance tax you may have paid. And apart from that, there is a new facility which we have provided now, which is called annual information statement. That is also available on the e-filing portal. And then once you have the annual information statement as well, it gives a summary of all the financial transactions that you may have had. You should cross-check all these things so that you make sure that you have you are now ready to fill in the return.
Right. So, sir, like you had said, you've spoken about investments, you've spoken about documents pertaining to loans and all that. Would also be receipts for donations made? Would that also be required to be taken care of by the taxpayer?
Absolutely. So, a very valid point. If anybody has donated to say PM Cares and other donations for charity, then that is eligible for deduction under Schedule 80G, for which a separate it has to be entered in the return. So those donations will have the PAN number of the donee to whom you are making the donation,
Right.
and also things like ATD, which is your health insurance premium, that also can be claimed. So these are some other documents that you can have.
Okay. You've earlier mentioned that the validation of a bank account is very, very important. So, in cases, what happens? I mean, what is the average amount of time that is taken to validate a bank account? And there are a lot of queries that we receive wherein validation had failed. Or questions on whether I can link two multiple bank accounts to my PAN. So, could you answer that for our taxpayers?
Subhash, it's a very important point. On the income tax return, the requirement is that you should quote all your bank accounts. So, the first step I would like to inform all the taxpayers is that irrespective of whether a bank account is validated or not validated, all the bank accounts have to be quoted, and that is the basic requirement.
Right.
Where does the question of validation come up? The question of validation is coming up only to ensure that your PAN number is mentioned in the bank account with the bank. So it should be linked in the bank account, because only then the refund will get credited to the bank account. So we have a system where we are automatically crediting the refund to the bank account.
Right.
Now for that we need to make sure that that bank account belongs to that taxpayer only.
Right.
And that is why that PAN number should be available in the bank. So the process of validation is to ensure or get a confirmation from the bank that the PAN number is available with the bank. So this process is online for nearly 21 banks, and then if the bank, say for example a small cooperative bank, is not available online to be validated, we have an offline process. Every week we are sending the bank accounts which are quoted for validation to such banks. The offline process takes about 7 to 8 working days for the validation to happen.
Okay.
As I said, the validation is important to ensure that the refund is credited to that bank account.
Right. So, in terms of validation and bank accounts, sir, now let's say there's a taxpayer who has a foreign bank account, and he wants to link it to his PAN for his return filing. Is that possible?
So, the quoting of the foreign, if he has a foreign bank account, it should be quoted in the income tax return.
Right.
However, the refund is only credited to an Indian bank account.
Okay.
We do not credit any refunds to any foreign bank account, so that cannot be validated. It's outside the country, so we have no means to validate that bank account. But Indian bank account only is required for a refund credit.
Okay. So we had talked a lot about linking PAN and Adhar, and that's one of the most used formats for validation. So is it just enough that someone links their PAN with their Adhar, or is there something else that they have to do about it?
As I told you, Subhash, the most critical thing to note is that the Adhar number should also have a valid mobile number registered with UIDAI.
Right.
If that is not there, then he will not receive the Adhar OTP. So the Adhar OTP is a very important thing, because that enables him to e-verify his return. So that is also critical. If a taxpayer does not have a valid mobile number registered with UIDAI or Adhar, then he can go to any Adhar enrollment center and get that mobile number activated for the Adhar.
Okay. And sir, you were speaking about the new annual information statement that we have now introduced along with 26 AS. Now, as a taxpayer, what should I go to? Should I compare my pre-filled data or my documents with 26 AS, or should I compare them with the annual information statement?
Very valid point. This is the first year in which the annual information statement has been made available. So it is available on the e-filing portal under services. There is a menu item called annual information statement. If you click on that, then it will take you to our data warehouse portal, and there you can download the AIS statement in PDF format. It will contain all the salaries that have been reported by deductors. It will contain all the interest that you have received from the banks. It will contain all the dividend payments that have been made by companies. It will also include all the sale of equity, that is your shares, mutual funds, and also it will have details of across various investments, fixed deposits that you may have made. Why is it important? It is important to note that this annual information statement is a measure of the transparency of what information department has about the taxpayer. So once the taxpayer knows that this is my interest, then it is easy for him to fill up his return as well. So that is the effort that has been made. The distinction between AIS and 26AS is that 26AS is primarily for the purpose of tax deduction at source, how much advance tax you have paid, self-assessment tax you have made. Wherever tax deduction is there, the income is also getting reflected. For example, your salary income will also be mentioned. But the primary purpose of the 26AS is for tax payment and tax deduction, tax collection, all that is reflected there. The pre-fill that is happening today in the income tax return, which is trying to pick up all this data. It includes data from the basic profile, that is your mobile number, your address, and all that is picked up from the profile. It is picking up data from your previous ITR. So supposing you may have some information which is there in the previous ITR, that is also getting picked up. In addition, it is picking up data of tax payments, tax deducted at source from your 26AS. It is picking up dividend income and interest income from AIS. So all this is, we are trying to make it available to the taxpayer in the pre-filled format. However, the taxpayer should make sure that the data in the 26AS, data in the annual information statement and the pre-fill is correct. That is why, if you remember the beginning, I said that he should have his bank statement copy, he should have his form 16, so that he can cross-check. Once he has cross-checked and made sure that everything is correct, then he can edit. In the return, though the information is pre-filled, he can go ahead and edit. So once he has edited, that becomes the final return that he is going to submit.
So thank you, sir, for taking us through the most commonly faced queries or the most commonly faced issues by taxpayers while they prepare to file their taxes. So, and that is that, a short, quick and simple guide to getting ready. With all the paraphernalia in place, we shall take you to the actual return filing process in the next part of this episode, diving deeper. In diving deeper, we'll look at some of the most important clarifications that taxpayers have sought this filing season in the process of filing out the ITR and more. So until part 2, thank you for joining us in Filing Time, and we hope to see you soon. Jai Hind.